I need some energy, man. I'm like dying right now, like from just being tired. So hopefully that'll help. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. So what's up, everybody? Yeah, it's the new year, 2023. I hope everybody had a great and wonderful new year. I hope everyone has a New Year's resolution that they want to do and they want to take care of. That'd be nice. I mean, you should always try and take care of yourself, take care of your body, your family, everybody that's close to you. So it'd be nice if everybody just took a minute and just did those little things or made some sort of resolution for themselves, whether it be, you know, exercising more or drinking less and stuff like that. Like it's always, I mean, you always try and come up with like some sort of like just for your health, I guess, and it's a hard thing to do. It really is. It's a hard thing to stick with. I think I said for mine, we did one at work where they were like every month we come out with like a newsletter and stuff like that. So they come out with a newsletter, and the woman who publishes the newsletter, she was going around and asking just random people, "Hey, what's your New Year's resolution?" So mine was to try and cut back on tobacco usage. So basically, dip. And man, about 2 days in on that, and it just kind of just went down the drain. You know, it was just no bueno because it's so all I do all day at work is kind of just do maintenance and stuff like that. So I just fix things. That's it. And sometimes when you have to fix things or do things, it's just really hard to just fix things with nothing else to do. You know, like sometimes I try and listen to music, like I'll pop in like my AirPods or something like that. But for the majority of it, it takes time to like pull out, put the headphone in, connect, find a good song, and all that stuff. So it's easier just to put in a dip, and that's kind of what I always do, and what's become natural, I guess. And I'm like, and I've given up dipping before, like as far as I stopped dipping for like 3 months straight and didn't have any of like the nicotine withdrawals or anything like that. I wasn't irritable or anything like that, so it was not really that big of a thing. I think it's more of just like something to do, like if like people who smoke, like you might not realize it, but maybe you need something to do in that moment in time. So I tried to give it up. Didn't really work that well. So I mean, and I don't tip a lot. I guess I don't really ever have any problems with my teeth at all. Like the last time I had a cavity, I was like 18, and which was the worst experience of my life. So I will try and refrain. I will damn near die before I visit the dentist because they just poked me full. And it was probably because it was in the Marine Corps too, so it's not like the best experience you could possibly have. But it was still, it's definitely not something that I'm 32 now and 18 that still haunts me to this day for that dental experience for as my first one like ever. And I'm like, yeah, no, this sucked. When you drill into somebody's mouth and you got to numb them up and stick a needle that's 3 foot long in your mouth, like it's pretty miserable. So thankful. I am thankful that I haven't had to go to the dentist since then. I probably should, go get a cleaning. But every time you go to the doctor or any kind of do anything for yourself, they always find out bad things for you. So it's just kind of like hard. Like I think my wife probably pushes me the most to go because she's really like, hey, you need to take care of yourself. You need to do, like she's very big on like, hey, take care of your body. It'll take care of you. That kind of the whole philosophy. So I mean, which is true. She's not lying. It's just I don't want to do it, so she has to force me to do it. And if she sets it up, that means I have to go. So, but anyways, off that bandwagon. So this week's episode is going to be. So I got like a two-part thing going on here. And I know there's other just like stories and stuff that I kind of just halfway told and things like that. But the biggest thing that I want to go over for this one is the interdimensional connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. All right, and let that one sink in a little bit. It's like it's interdimensional connection between UFOs and Bigfoot, and a lot. I guess not a lot of reports, but there's been reports that have came out that have started to surface more and more with anytime there you see one of these sightings, whether it be a Bigfoot or a UFO encounter or something, there always seem to be kind of like connected. There's some sort of connection. Like either you see one and then you'll see the second one, or vice versa. Me personally, I mean, we live in Ohio, and there's all kinds of different things. Like I didn't even know there was these like like I talk about this on here, but to find like a whole group of, I mean, there are groups of people out there, but like in the area where like where you live and stuff. So there's like I think my wife stumbled upon this Facebook page that is like it was like Bigfoot like research and it's like a BFRO, but not as cool or as big, but for like the local area where I'm from, which I was like, oh my god, this is so weird. But there is always like a lot of um, there's been a lot of reported sightings of Bigfoot in Ohio, and then also of UFOs as well, because you have Lake Erie, which is literally like 1 mile to the north of me, and it's that all that stuff goes hand in hand. So it's just weird how they're starting to come out with these reports of all this, like, hey, that there's UFOs, and you think people are seeing them, and the same with Bigfoot. You got all these encounters. So what's the reasoning behind having um like why are they both connected in some way? So I printed off this document and stuff like that, which is kind of where I get most of my facts. I just kind of do like a little read through and stuff like that to make sure it somewhat makes sense, I guess, and just kind of familiarize myself with it. But by means of I'm no expert at any of this, but it's very nice, and I'll add the guy's name, I always try and add whoever stuff that I'm reading, give them credit, because it's not me. It's just me just trying to tell, like, hey, this is like my opinion about the whole story. So it's really just nice to hear other people's opinions, and there's thousands of these things. There's thousands of stories about all this kind of stuff. There's all kinds of reports and police reports, all this other stuff that just doesn't. Nothing ever adds up. It's so weird how. And the funny thing about most of this stuff is all of these sightings and all these weird um, cryptid like type animals and all these sightings and all this stuff, all of this stuff started happening around the same time within the 15-year time span. And I don't know if maybe it's because like technology became more abundant and people were able to voice their opinion a little more. I don't, maybe that's probably the reason why. But it would be really nice to talk to people who were there before all of the technology, because if you look at overall, I mean, technology itself within the last 100 years, like how much, and that's 100 years is 2023 right now, so you do the math because I don't want to. That's like in the last 100 years, like technology itself has advanced so much in that blink of an eye. So the people before that, if you ever had a chance to talk to them before that, like it makes you wonder like what they were kind of thinking, or what they were seeing and stuff like that. And most people, obviously no one ever talked about these things, but it's becoming more commonplace, so which is nice. So it makes it a lot easier to kind of bring up these subjects or these stories. And here in a couple weeks, I'm gonna have a party here at the house for my birthday and stuff like that. So I'm gonna try and get some of those guys that everyone. You slap a couple drinks into somebody, and all of the sudden, everybody always wants to talk. It's you try and pull on those strings of like, hey, what do you believe in ghosts, or do you believe in like aliens or like spirits, demons, whatever it is, whatever you're into. And people always have some sort of like encounter, whether they want to talk about it or not. People think they're weird and stuff like that. So it's going to be fun and interesting to see if anybody actually wants to sit across from me and talk about this stuff. Because I mean, I could talk about this stuff, and you get a couple drinks in somebody, and everybody wants to talk about it. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so that's going to be the first part. And then the next part, the second part, we'll see how far that one gets. The second part I'm going to do is about the freaking chupacabra. The chupacabra. You know what I mean? Like that little blood-sucking little goat thing or whatever it is. Or yeah, if you don't know what the chupacabra is, man, you're living under a rock or something like that. But that's what I'm going to go over. And I'm going to try and talk about the first reported sighting of it and stuff, and how it all came about, which was really... it was really weird how the whole first sighting came about, because it was around the same time frame as something else, which it was just, I'm not going to go into detail. We'll talk about it here in a little bit, but it was just very odd how it came about, and at the same time something else was kind of happening. So it was just really, it's really odd how it all came about. But we'll talk about it in a minute. So we'll jump back into the interdimensional connection between UFOs and Bigfoot. All right. So let's see what we got here. Let's see what these guys say. So it says, for hundreds of years, people around the world have reported encounters with monsters, fairies, angels, demons, and other supernatural creatures, and to this day, experiences persist. It would be easy to say that these are simple archetypal figures, being that they're a collective conscious, evokes in our minds with characteristics based on our fears, subliminal functions of our psyche, or we consider um, bizarre possibilities that these are entities or other dimensions operating in higher realms of existence. So that first like whole paragraph right there, like that thing is that is what I thought it was all everything was based off of. So it would be easy to say these are simply figures belonging to our collective conscience, evokes in our minds, our characteristics based on fears or subliminal functions of our psyche, or we can consider bizarre possibilities that these entities of another dimension operating in higher realms of existence. So that's two sides of the coin. Is it you're making it up, and this is what you want to see, like your brain is like saying like this is real, or are you actually saying like this is like there's other realms, there's other ways to get around and do other things. These fucking I got these two dogs, all right, and they're two annoying dogs. So one is old as shit, and one is 1 year old dog, and they just fight all the fucking time, and it's so annoying. And then I have a 9 year old who likes to antagonize it and make it go even worse. So she's chasing around just as much as they're chasing them. Like, so sorry if you hear that in the background. I told them to keep it down, but they never listen because short-term memory, and then they just go off and, oh, butterfly, like that. But anyways, so John Keel, the prominent UFOologist and paranormal researcher who became famous for his 1970 book, The Mothman Prophecies, which became a movie in 2002, once promised the idea that there are window areas around the world connecting our reality with parallel dimensions. These areas Keel imagined can be elucidated some unexplained accounts of these supernatural entities. Keel referred to these entities as ultra-terrestrial beings, which would be able to cross dimensions at will, often acting as a kind of cosmic prankster. So basically, like, hey, you see me, and then somebody says something, and then you don't see them, which is kind of odd, but that's my opinion, I guess. My opinion. When it comes to the Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, or any other assignment they may have, there's often a prank or a haunting described in their actions. Tree knocks or scary screams warn of their presence until witnesses get close enough so they can catch a glimpse before the creature disappears in the air. Its appearance can be considered another form of playfulness, incorporating a primitive monkey-like creature, sometimes small and sometimes gigantic, that exudes a noxious odor. However, they are able to avoid contact with us despite the thousands of sightings reported over the hundreds of years on every continent on the planet. So that's pretty much like Bigfoot in a nutshell right there. Like so you're saying this thing is real, but then you're saying like, hey, is it interdimensional or can it go other places? And that's mainly the reason why we're saying we haven't been able to find like a body or like bones and stuff like that, because they think that wherever it is, it's going in some sort of type of like interdimensional area where it can just kind of phase out and just go into its own dimension or another dimension. Like, who knows? I don't know. An intriguing account linking UFO and Bigfoot comes from an 1888 encounter between cattle ranchers and a group of Native Americans in Northern California. The natives described three crazy bears that descended from the sky on a small moon and left them in the forest before leaving. Another case in Cincinnati, Ohio, in 1973, a woman named Refa Heightfield and her daughter were woken up in the middle of the night with a beam of light that was out of an umbrella-shaped object in the sky. Tracking the light to where it landed in a nearby forest, the two noticed a grayish creature wandering towards the beam. Before they knew it, both the monkey and the ship were gone. Although these stories may be, well, I don't even know what the fuck that word is. They may be. I'm assuming what they're trying to say is, all these stories may be like they're just hypothetical. Like they're going off of somebody's story. It is reported that at least 20% of Bigfoot sightings coincide with UFO events. 20%. So that's 20% within that's the whole, like, I don't know where they did that study, but 20%, that's a pretty good amount of, as far as having links with UFO and Bigfoot encounters. Jack Carey, a cryptozoologist who has studied Bigfoot for decades, says he believes in alternatively plausible that Bigfoot is being abducted. What? Oh my God! Being abducted by UFOs in the same way as humans to study its DNA and physical attributes. Carey also attributes the idea called the Mach effect could explain the possibility of interdimensional travel. The Mach effect, which is actually a solid principle in physics tested by NASA, employs the use of fluctuations created by mass body as it accelerates, which in turn is used to generate momentum. So all we're saying there is, basically, the idea of the process by NASA is possible. We're just, so we're saying the idea, or you're able to do it, I guess, but is it, so we're saying that, like, we didn't bring this up. It was, we linked this from UFOs to Bigfoot, and then you have to test the theory to say, no, it's actually true, we can actually do that. That's just, it just seems like that's a little off for me, but, yeah, I guess we'll just have to go with what they say. All right, scientists believe that the fluctuation of the Earth could create momentary tears in the electromagnetic membrane, separating our universe from another parallel, allowing extra-dimensional entities to have access to this dimension. The astronomer and UFOologist Jacques Vallée, who was a student and collaborator of J. Allen Hynek on the Blue Book project, also thinks he may have something extra-dimensional going on, sharing an impression similar to John Keel's when talking about the UFO phenomenon. Vallée believes there is something more than the traditional explanation of an extraterrestrial race visiting Earth, rather than to believe it is possible a window to another dimension. We are dealing with a level of consciousness not yet recognized, independent of man, but closely linked to Earth. I no longer believe that UFOs are simply spaceships of some race of extraterrestrial visitors. This notion is too simplistic to explain in its appearance. The frequency of manifestations through recorded history and structure of information exchanged during contact, says the astronomer. So what you're basically saying is, you think over the past however many years we've been getting encounters with UFOs or whatever, anything like that, you're saying is it's too simple of a process. Yeah, I get that. So if there are UFOs that are coming from other solar systems or other planets and stuff like that, it would seem very odd to me to say, hey, why are you traveling this far if you're just here and then you're leaving, or you're visiting and you're not, like, there's no, like, I wonder what is the outcome, or what are they trying to get out? I don't know. Maybe they're not trying to get anything. Maybe it's not even real. Like, who knows? But from what I'm reading from this is, the astronomers who see these and talk about these things, they're really big on, if UFOs were coming here and all this stuff is true, it just seems too simple for someone to be like, hey, like, that's it. Like, we don't have anything else, like, and we're just leaving. Like, that just doesn't seem right to me. So, anyways, back to it. So in the 1960s, the CIA investigated an alleged simultaneous encounter between a Bigfoot and a UFO at Presque Isle State Park in the city of Erie, Pennsylvania. The following reports were documented as a part of the Blue Book project, again, same project, during which the U.S. government investigated thousands of cases involving UFOs. The Presque Isle is a peninsula that stretches over Lake Erie to form the Bay of Presque, one of the most visited summer tourist destinations in the state of Pennsylvania. On the night of July 31st, 1966, 4 New York terrorists. Why did I say that? Maybe I'm thinking about terrorists. No, I don't know. New York tourists stranded their car on the sand after spending the day relaxing on the peninsula, Six Beach. One member of the group, Gerard LaBelle, was sent to Collie Winch. God damn, that scared the dog shit out of me. Oh my god. That scared the hell out of me. Like I heard it in my headset because I can hear myself talk in the headset, which kind of makes sure like if I don't like get too far away, then you can't hear it. But that was really really loud in my headset, and it scared the shit out of me. Um, yeah. So, anyways, so Gerard LaBelle was sent to call the winch while the others remained in the car. Around 10 p.m., a police patrol stopped to ask if they were okay. After being informed that help was on the way, the officer said they would check back in an hour. I don't know about that. I ain't staying out there on no fucking beach. Not like that. All right, so the police returned about 35 minutes later. The group said they witnessed something strange happening up there, pointing to a spot in the sky above the wooded area. One of the group members, Douglas Tibbetts, went to investigate along with two officers. The group's two women, Betty Clem and Anita Halfley, remained in the car as they waited for everyone to return. Tibbetts and the officers walked about 300 meters along the beach before hearing the car horn and ran back to see what happened. Um, Clem and Halfley, clearly shaken, said they witnessed a black and opaque shape larger than a man, head and shoulders armed like appendages, no hands, no visible face, as if on its back in front of their car before disappearing into the bushes. When Clem touched the horn, a scratching sound in the bodywork of the car was also reported. In the end, the creature was dismissed by researchers as a raccoon, despite the very distinct description of women, humanoid biped figure. But what about the UFO? Um, the UFO was described as an angular ship emitting red and orange lights before descending onto the beach, where it radiated a beam of white light that tracked something in the forest. But eventually, it took off at incredible speed to the north soon after the women found the humanoid figure. The next morning, officers patrolled the area where the aircraft would have landed. The report said they noticed the presence of two unusual triangle marks in the area, including the ship's landing zone. The officer who drafted the report said, "I don't have any reasonable explanation about the UFO," and described the witnesses as credible. So obviously, I mean, they did a whole the whole police report is in here, like legit, like police report is like the old style police report is in there. And I mean, if you're I mean, I don't know. I guess you could go both ways. You could say these people, I mean, you're out on the beach, you're having a good time, you're spending all day there. Are you drinking? Are you smoking weed? I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say, but I feel like the police at that point would be like, no, these people, like you would write that in the report, like no, they were highly intoxicated or something like that. It just does. It seems a little odd. So he said it's a credible witness. I mean, that would mean that you would have no reason to discredit anything they say, but you have. I mean, besides the triangles in where the UFO landed, but then also at that point in time, are there footprints there? You would assume there would be footprints there because if you didn't have footprints, then that would just seem odd. I mean, if you saw the figure and there was something tracking it, and I don't know if it's like in like a sandy beach or if it's like wooded area at this point. Like I don't know where they are at this point on the beach. So I mean, I don't know, but all I'm saying is it doesn't seem everything seems to kind of add up to where something happened that evening and they cannot explain it. It's just really odd how the police get there and the two guys they go or the one guy goes with the police officers, and as soon as they go and check where the UFO landed, the two women in the car who have no reason to think. I mean, up to this point, you have no reason to be terrified or be scared of anything. You're just out there on the beach. Everyone should have already gone, and most animals or creatures at that point aren't really that threatening or that crazy. So you're not. So you have nothing to really worry about. Um, but obviously, something spooked them enough to where they were like, "Holy shit! Like I need to blow the horn and get the cops and our friend back here because I don't know what the hell it just was." Um, so yeah, so that's just kind of odd for me. So it says, and there's so right here, there's two bay windows right in front of me, and it's starting to get dark out there. So it's always like you see something walk by, but it's not. It's just the lights are like the way I look up for my glasses and stuff like that. Which, by the way, another thing, I don't wear glasses like at all. Like my eyesight is good, but these are like UV and like light glasses, so that way I don't mess them up because I have like the stand lights behind it, so that's why everything's kind of bright and shadowed. So if I didn't have them on, they would just hurt my eyeballs and stuff like that. So that's what that is. So the investigation of the case was eventually abandoned, remaining unsolved to this day. Despite the testimony of the group members, the Blue Project report made no definitive conclusion. And it says, I mean, it's got it right here, the project record, July 31st, civilian, number of objects, 2, length of observation, 5 minutes, um, type of observation, type of observation, ground visual, photos. I don't think they had any photos at that point. Lights identification. Let's see. Lights were unidentified. Not related to above sighting. Monster, probable animal not related to 1 and 2. See the case files. Next, a local television station broadcast a segment a few years later where he interviewed a man who claimed the UFO was a hot air balloon he had ordered and built. But the man's claim implies that that the homemade weather balloon would have traveled straight just north for several kilometers, carried by the wind without alternating its course. Although the witness accounts described something much more complex than a paper balloon, the man's testimony does not explain the strange marks on the beach where the ship allegedly landed, confusing CIA investigators. Could the Presque Isle incident be the result of one of these window areas where archetypical beings of another dimensions entered our universe? To this day, have maintained their accounts of what happened, and many others later came forward saying they saw a UFO above the peninsula that night. As theoretical physicists continue to change our perception of reality with the perception of a multiverse quantum, it seems that Einstein called ghostly actions at a distance may be a little more ghostly than we thought. All right. Now, if you will give me a minute, I have to go do something real quick. Tinsley, you okay, babe? Okay. It's like I have a fucking dog fighting ring going on here. Like, not even like a good one. Just fat, overweight dogs who like to eat food. And make a lot of noise. That's all that I have, which is really annoying. One kid's upstairs playing in her dorm-style room. The other one's sitting on a trampoline outside. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyways. So yeah, so that's the first one. I mean, seeing and hearing about all that, I mean, it's very, that was a very light story as far as, but it is an encounter that, that we are saying that you're seeing both of these styles of things in the same area, which is already odd in its own sense. And maybe it wasn't Bigfoot, maybe it was an alien, or maybe we don't know. This is all just speculation, but it's just odd in how many different accounts you can have with these types of things, where you would think at some point, like, somebody's way over here with a UFO and somebody's way over here with Bigfoot. At some point, the paths have to cross to where you're saying, like, they can't, like, it's like, it's like two rival football teams. At some point, you're going to have to meet each other. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with each other. Are they related? Is interdimensional travel a thing? Are there other dimensions to where these things are just coming and going as they please? I don't know. And it would be, I guess it would be something like a fun fact. Let me write that down. It would be a fun fact to see, because I know it happens a lot, is if interdimensional travel is a thing, and we're saying this is a thing, is how many people from, like, we'll just take a time frame. So when 1995 to the 2000s, how many people disappeared in the woods and their bodies were never found or like missing and stuff like that. That just seems to intrigue me about that, and no particular reason. It's really if interdimensional travel is a thing, or if people are being abducted, or if aliens are trying to study humans and their DNA. You figure like we haven't changed much over the last 50 or 60 years. Like not much, it's I mean, yeah, you get a little less hair, you age a little less and stuff like that, but for the majority of it, everyone, like our DNA is still, are we that complex that they still need to do this, or this still happens? um I don't know. I mean, it would be very intriguing to see how many people have disappeared from that time frame, or in that time frame, to say, hey, like, are they disappearing in the woods, or were they abducted or taken, and then they go through this rift or this tear in this interdimensional travel, and they're taken back to a different world? And are they studied? Are they killed? Are there people in this other area? Like, you could what if and go on about this conversation for hours. You could, if you had somebody else to talk about this, it'd be very easy to be like, well, what do you think? So you're walking in the woods, it's you and a buddy, and you guys are walking in the woods, whether it be hiking or on a trail, whatever it is. And I mean, we do that all the time. I mean, me and my wife, we walk in the woods all the time. It's not anything crazy. You always get a weird vibe out there. Like, there's some areas around here, like, you can always tell some of the woods around here are, you can see for a pretty good distance, but in some of these areas, it's very dense. And you sometimes, and you always want to try and trust your judgment. It's really, you always want to be like, hey, like, if I don't feel right about something, or if the dog we're with doesn't feel right about something, then I ain't gonna feel right about it, and I'm getting the fuck out of there. Like, that's one of the biggest things. And some people don't have that kind of sense, or that sense of their surroundings, and how things are going in their environment. So it would be very intriguing to see how many of these people actually disappeared and go. And you could be like, they get, you and your buddy are just walking in the woods, and you turn the corner, and there's a fucking Bigfoot. And I think I've had this conversation numerous times, with just to see everybody's different opinion. Like, what would you do? And a lot of people. I mean, everybody has different. Like, no one has ever been like, oh, I'm gonna fight that motherfucker. I'm gonna shoot him. Like, no. I mean, I don't care how big or how badass you think you are. Like, you're not. Like, it's just not something that it's just gonna happen. So what if you're in this scenario and you see this, and you see the Bigfoot, and then he just kind of goes behind a tree and disappears, and then you don't see it again, and that's it. I mean, obviously, if you go up to the tree and you look around it and nothing's there, like, it can make you think, like, oh man, maybe we saw, like, we were thinking about, like, it wasn't really what we saw, or it wasn't really what we were thinking, but maybe it was just something we made up. But it's just weird if you have, and that's why it's always good to have somebody with you, because it's hard when you have eyewitness accounts that are by yourself. It's really hard to talk yourself out of that, and it's really hard to, like, doubt yourself, or what if, like, no, I didn't see that, or this didn't happen, or anything like that. You really try and, push those things down, because if it's not normal, and it's in your normal life and your normal reality, it shouldn't be there. Like, if you're being 100 and completely honest, it should not be there. That's really it. um so that's why it's always good, like, um if you have more people or other witnesses, it makes everything kind of easier, because then you can bounce each other's ideas off, like, like, everything that happened. So like, everything that happened with me in Florida, and then everything that happened with my dad and my little brother, and then my other brother, like, all of these things were going on around the same time frame, but no one wanted to say anything for fear of, hey, you're not going to believe me, or you're not, like, no one's going to care, or anything like that. And you really just try and, like, bury that shit, and you don't want to talk about it. But in all reality, if we were all, teenagers at that time, and we all kind of collectively came together and talked about this stuff, maybe we could have figured out a solution. We were in that area still for a while. We could have maybe, like, oh man, like, maybe it is something out, or maybe we are seeing something. Like, we could have talked about it. But because it's just a single person seeing an event, it's really hard to it's I guess it's not really, it's really easy to dissuade yourself from saying that you saw that, and that's probably that's what happens a lot. But it's I would be very curious to see how many people have disappeared in the woods from these kinds of things, like just out of nowhere, just vanished. Like Joe Schmo, how many single guys or single women go out into the woods because they love nature, and then on Monday morning, that happens on a Friday, they disappear, they don't show up, and then Monday morning they they don't go to work, they don't show up to work, so then they call and they figure it out, and then like you're already like 2 or 3 days in, and then by that time you're trying to figure out, oh, where did they go, where was their last cell phone ping or stuff like that, or whatever it is you do when you try and find missing people. But there's just a lot of time frame in between there, and then so many things can happen between the time from when somebody could some this could happen to when somebody first notices it. It's I mean it's very it'd be very curious to see how many people that actually happens to. It'd be a pretty wild thing to. I'm probably gonna research it and see because I'm weird like that. I never realized there's so many fucking cars. That's why I don't leave these blinds. There's so many cars that drive by because we live on a cul-de-sac that everybody just turns around. Like it's just really annoying. So, anyways, let's get back to the second subject. And this will probably be a little quicker. It won't be as long because I don't really. I mean, it's something that I want to talk about, but it's just it's a it's just a weird one. I mean, the chupacabra. Like number one, I don't like saying it because it's like a multi-syllable like word, so you have to say it like chupacabra or chupacabra or whatever you want to say it. But no, we'll just call him Choop. All right, we'll just call him Choop. All right, we'll shorten it up. All right, so the chupacabra. So this dude. Um, so the first time. So this was the weird thing about it. So the first time this guy was um, ever witnessed or anybody started talking about it was in 1995, and it started out in Puerto Rico. Um, so basically, the chupacabra, which is Spanish for goat sucker, literal. Chupa means to suck, and cabras means goats. So that's pretty easy to figure out. Is a legendary creature of the folklore of parts of what the hell of the Americas, which is first perpetrated sightings reported in Puerto Rico in 1995. The name comes from the animal reported um, vampirism. The chupacabra is said to attack and drink the blood of livestock, including goats. Physical description of the creature varies. Some described as reptilian and alien-like, generally as a heavy creature the size of a small bear, with the row of spines reaching the neck and the base of the tail. Others depicted as a more dog-like creature, which is, I think, more particularly in the southwestern, like Mexico border, like that kind of area, like Texas and stuff like that, which is where you kind of see the change from like to like a dog or like a wolf like creature and stuff like that. But in Puerto Rico when it first came out, the thing looked like a damn like a fish with spines and hands. It was just really weird. Sightings have been reported in Puerto Rico since the 1970s, and this 1970s, Jesus Christ, and this creature has since been reported as far as north as Maine. Oh my God. As far as south as Chile, and even the outside the Americas in countries like Russia and the Philippines. All his reports are anecdotal and have been disregarded as uncorroborated or lacking evidence. See, that's the bad part about this one, is there's not enough. There's like with Bigfoot and stuff like that. It's really easy to be like, hey, like there's thousands of reports, and they're all commonly the same. But with this one, it's things differ and change so much about it that it's really hard to get stories straight or get the you get 10 stories that are the same, two that are different. 10 that are the same and two that are different. What the hell was that? Was that a kid? Man, I think I'm just freaking myself out here, to be honest. Hensley. That's it. That's all I wanted. You're good. Love you. Oh my God, man. I don't know what the hell. Alright, I gotta edit that part out. That was way too long. But, so it was a kid. It was my kid who was on the trampoline and who was taking the trash cans out front. But it's so dark, all you see is the shadow. So, but anyways, let's get back to it. Maybe we can cut that out right there. So 41 minutes. All right, cool. All right. Been disregarded as uncorroborated or lacking evidence. Sightings in northern Mexico and southern United States have been verified as candidates afflicted by mange. According to biologists, wildlife management officials, the chupacabra is an urban legend. So some people are thinking that maybe it's like an animal that is basically like ravaged or has like rabies or something like that. Which I mean, I guess could see. I could see that happening. So the history. In 1975, a series of livestock killings in the small town of Moca, Puerto Rico, were attributed to El Vampirio de Moco, the vampire of Moca. Initially, it was suspected that the killings were committed by a satanic cult. Later, more killings were reported around the island, and many farms reported loss of animal life. Each of the animals reported to have to have had its body bled dry through a series of small circular incisions. The first reported attack, eventually attributed to the actual chupacabras, occurred in March 1995. 8 sheep were discovered dead in Puerto Rico, each with 3 punctural wounds in the chest area and reportedly completely drained of blood. A few months later, in August, an eyewitness named Madeline Tolentino reported seeing the creature in Puerto Rico town of Canovanas, which is actually, oh my God, that's so crazy. That's where my grandpa's from, on my dad's side. I did not know that. Oh my dear Lord. That's so funny. I think that's where he's from. I don't know. My brothers will watch this, so maybe they can fix it or comment on it, whatever it is. Whereas many as 150 farm animals and pets were reportedly killed. Puerto Rican comedian and entrepreneur Silvia Perez is credited with coining the term chupacabra as soon as the first incident happened. Let's see. A lot of this stuff is just bullshit. Like, it's not really... Like, it's never really good. No, that's stupid. See, that's why some of these I should really probably proofread them, because everything else about this thing sucks. Okay, so basically what happened, so I can just ad-lib off of that one. Anyways, that's enough of that. 10 pages of nonsense. So basically the first woman to have... So the odd thing, I guess, for me is or the odd reason why all this stuff started happening, and what really brought it weird for me, was there was the woman who first said that she saw this thing, this creature, in Puerto Rico. She was basically, it was the same time that the movie Species had came out. And in the movie Species, which it's probably been 10, 15 years since probably more than that, since I've seen that movie. So basically the woman in that movie basically looks exact. If you look up the chupacabra and the creature from the Species, the movie, they look similarly the same. Like exactly the same. It was kind of eerily creepy how the same they looked. So the woman who first saw this had just recently seen that movie in theaters, and then like within like a few days she saw this creature. So everyone took that upon themselves, like, hey, like this is kind of the reason why she thought she saw this creature, is because her mind was already wrapped around the whole species and the whole movie about that stuff. So that's why she really got discredited on a lot of this stuff, was because they thought like it was just her mind was like, hey, like you're trying to relate this to something that you've already seen. And that's kind of where that's why this creature gets such a bad rap for everything, because there's no real nobody has a definitive like, hey, this is what it looks like. And this is like with Bigfoot, everybody, that's cut and dry, that's simple. It's a big hairy man. He's strong as shit, and everybody sees him, everybody can talk about himself, and they're all kind of the same. With this one, because her account, she said that she had just obviously recently saw the movie, and that's what she related it to. She said it looks just like that. So it was just kind of odd that that kind of happened. But for her doing that, it really led everyone else to be like, hey, I saw it too, but this is what it looked like. Or I saw it too in Texas, and this is what it looked like. So in the U.S., it was like 4 different types of animals that people are seeing, but we're all going to call it the same thing. I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. So everything just gets discredited at that point, and you're like, well, I don't know who to believe, or what to talk about, or what anybody wants to believe at that point. So that's why I wanted to talk about it just to say that I had talked about it, so then we can move on to like other creatures or other kinds of things like that. But this one for me was just, there wasn't enough data behind it. Like that Wikipedia like insert was like one of the most bare things you could find on it. I mean, there's other people's talking about reports and stuff like that, but I never want to do like the first hand reports. Like actually like somebody's like saying like, hey, this is what it is, because those are like their encounters and stuff like that. I just want to give like a broad interpretation of what I think it is. Now, what do I think it is? I mean, you could throw it up in the air for what you might think it is, but I mean, obviously, it's a small creature, and the odd thing I guess for me is how the animals were killed. That was the odd thing for me. It wasn't like most like mutilations or animals getting killed they're always very very open to like, hey, this is what happened. And with that one, it was very odd how the killings happened. Like to have your blood drain like that much in that precise of a way was just very odd. That was probably that's probably the biggest red flag for me, is how all the animals were killed, and the nature in which they were killed. Like the bodies, like most animals up to that point. Like I think there's only a few animals that drink blood, and that's like bats, like vampire bats. There's probably some other ones, but that's the main one. So it's not very common for a bipedal figure of that to only survive on blood, which is odd. If you're killing livestock like that, like if it was a coyote or a wolf or anything, or a bear or something like that, it would really they eat meat. So it's just really odd to see that is the only thing that it would do, and its only source of like mutilation was draining the blood. So that's probably the oddest thing for me for this whole chupacabra, or chupa, whatever you want to call them, chupa. Mm. But yeah, I mean it's odd. I mean, can you discredit everyone's accounts? No, but it's just there's too many what ifs in that scenario. There's too many there's too many avenues to approach it. And until someone gets like a definitive like, hey, like this is what I think it is, or this is what we think it is, then I feel like this one just gets like the back burner. It's more of like the great value of like the cryptid style creatures, I guess you could say. And I wish there was more and some better stuff, or some better reports, or some better insight on this thing. But really, I mean, you had more reports and more credibility with interdimensional connection between UFOs and Bigfoot than you do have with the chupacabra. And I don't know if it's because that's Latin America, and like I don't know if you know anything about Spanish people, but they're very secretive with all. I mean, the only thing they're not secretive about is like spirits and like ghosts and stuff like that, because they're always big on those things, because they'll always think like, oh yeah, like she was talking to me, or he was talking to me, that kind of stuff. But for the majority of it, like creatures and stuff like that, like especially with Spanish people. I mean, I work with a lot of Puerto Ricans, and they're very big on, like, even if they were to see it, they still wouldn't probably believe it because that's just how they were raised. I mean, that's like they don't think that um, these things are real or these creatures are real. So it's very hard to convince someone like that to be like, yeah, this is real. But then you talk to them about like spirits and ghosts, and oh yeah, that's 100%. So you believe in that, but you don't believe in this, and that's probably the odd thing for me. So, but for the majority of it, yeah, that's it. I mean, I wish it, like it's a cool subject and stuff like that, but there's not much on it. I mean, there's pictures and stuff like that, but everybody's depictions of it and stuff are just they're just their recollection of what they think it should be or what it should look like, and it varies. You know, you go to Puerto Rico and it looks like a damn fish with hands and feet and stuff with fangs, and then you go to like Texas and like the border of Mexico and stuff like that, and it looks like a wolf standing on two legs or a four-legged dog that's just rabid. So there's not really there's a lot of difference on as far as that one. So between that and interdimensional connections between UFOs and Bigfoot, I mean, I would be more geared to talk about the Bigfoot and UFO stuff because it's more there's a lot more subject, a lot more meat in that kind of a subject, and it's really fun to talk about. As far as next week's episode, I think I'm gonna so the one that I'm gonna probably talk about next week is like the whole skinwalker thing and talking about like how those first came about, which they came about from the natives and stuff like Native Americans and stuff. But that's a really that's an odd subject, so it'd be really nice to see you talk about that one. So we'll try and hit that subject up next week. But other than that, I really appreciate everyone tuning in, listening, and we'll hope to get back on this schedule, you know, because obviously the holidays and everything are over with. Everything's kind of calmed down. Everyone's kind of getting back into the swing of things. You know, I'm going to the gym, doing like work and just trying to get back into this groove and stuff like that. So we'll try and hit like some subjects and stuff like that and go over some stuff and talk about some other weird subjects like the Mothman and I want to talk about like demonic stuff, like exorcism style stuff, because there's a lot of those, and those are fun. Those are well, they're not fun, I guess. They're fun to read about, but it should be fun. I mean, there's a lot of different subjects, and I mean, if anybody wants to hear about anything or talk about anything, please. I mean, I'm all ears. I'll do any kind of research and try and voice my opinion as best as I can on these subjects. I'm no expert at it, but I mean, I like talking, at least for an hour, and then just kind of go with that and go from there, and we'll just keep on chugging along. I hope I can get some more people on it. Maybe I don't know. I don't have a lot of friends, so it's really hard for me to get like people on here and stuff like that. Besides like my brothers and like my neighbors and stuff, but my circle is really small, so which is cool with me. I mean, I'm fine with it. But we'll see. I'll try and get some other people on. Maybe some guys at work will want to talk about some shit. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. So I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next ones. Thanks. Peace out, peoples.